Well, hi. This is my first test run, which could be problematic if the audio. Whereas this is. I should mute it, and I can't hear anything. Let's see how that goes. Maybe I can change over to some headphones or something later, but for now, I just want to do a quick test. So, the idea is that I'm going to learn things, and through learning them, teaching things, and it's going to be all about programming and other security, computer stuff. I thought I would start just by doing a Node School exercise, and start out by, hi, I'm Gareth, and I do computer things. I'm sure we can figure that out as we go along. But let's just start by doing some Node School stuff. So I've got terminal, I've got Vim, I'm going to code in. You should be able to see this fairly okay with the font size. If there's anybody who wants the fonts a bit larger, then let me know. If I change into the Node School folder, you'll see that I've done a bunch of these over time, and I've actually stored them in a Git repository. So I've got a program called Hub installed. It's a Go program, and I store it in my local sort of magical Go folder in my home directory. That is just because it's an easy way to have Go installed on the Mac without having to mess around too much. And Hub ends up being an alias. Git ends up being an alias to Hub. So if we go to Git, you'll see it's alias to Hub, like I said. But it's a good tool because it does a couple of things. It lets you, for example, if you git init a repository locally, and then you think to yourself, "Oh, I'd really like that on, wherever, Bitbucket, GitHub," you can actually git create, which again now obviously is the real command doing the magic in the background. One of the things as well that is quite nice is that if you are in one of your, so if we just do git status, I have a couple of files here already. If we do git log, you'll see there's a history going back over time. And git browse will actually open up your web browser with the repository that we're looking for. That opened and just didn't come back. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I had to come over to this screen so we can get rid of this bad boy for a second. Yeah, so anyway, I have a repository, and as you can see, I've done a bunch of things, done a bunch of the Node School puzzles over the years. If you don't know what Node School is, nodeschool.io, and it is a series of really fun command line puzzles to learn, and quite often there are meetups around the world. You can see there's maps, etc., and the different ones going on. There's one coming up in a week or so in a little over a week in Vancouver, which is where I currently am, Vancouver, BC. I work all over the world, so it gets a bit weird and random. But there's a whole bunch of these workshops that you can do. So I thought maybe we'd just start with something like JavaScripting. So it's like, Learn Your Node was the original one, and there's a bit of history behind it. Some of the lovely folks in the JavaScript world have contributed a lot to this, and it's expanded quite a lot. And it teaches a lot of the fundamentals about Node, which is a good thing. So as you can see, to install stuff, you can install globally to what you need. So if we were just to npm install as the shortcut, JavaScripting, we would globally install JavaScripting, and then that would make it like a global path and environment variable that we could then actually run the JavaScripting command, and then once that's done, we'll quick look and see what's going on. So this is my first test. I've sort of set it up over the last couple of days, and hopefully pushing this to YouTube through archiving. I was inspired by Noobcat's work. She's been programming for a year and streaming it on Twitch, and I thought that was really cool, and I've enjoyed watching her do it. And I figured this is like what Noobcat does, but about like, she's like at 11 and I'd be at like about 4. So hopefully we'll cover a bunch of the fundamental sort of programming things. I'm starting with Node and JavaScript at the moment. I know a bunch of languages well enough to be dangerous and to not really, not really know what I'm doing most of the time, but enough to be able to, look it up. So one of the things I do is Node, because I thought, working remotely, it might be a good sort of remote job to have. Plus, I'm also come from the sysadmin background. Here we go. We've got JavaScript, and we've got one here complete. So what I might do is, if we just go JavaScripting with, I think it's with all of them, but with most of them at least, you get JavaScripting, and if you type, help, you will get all of the sort of links to things like the discussions, which it recommends you can go and have a play with to see what other folks have done to solve the problems. There's a Node.js channel on IRC, which I don't hang out in very much, although I do spend a lot of time in IRC. And then you have JavaScripting and a whole bunch of different commands. Now, the one we're going to do just this second, once you've done a set of puzzles, you can actually reset. So if I go JavaScripting, reset, and then we just run JavaScripting again by itself. Okay, progress, reset, up arrow, remove, reset, JavaScripting. We should get, so everything's a bit slow at the moment, I think, because I'm trying to stream, and I've got a 2012 MacBook Pro 15-inch HDMI plugged into my 3440 1440 brand new Dell ridiculous widescreen monitor. So I wondered how streaming would go. So this is the test. All right, so we're just going to go for the first exercise, and it literally, if we scroll up, because I've got big font so you can actually read what's going on. Introduction exercise 1 of 19. So to keep things organized, let's create a folder for this workshop. I think that's an excellent plan. So I'm going to change it to my programming, Node School, JavaScripting folder. And we'll see, I've done this a couple of times. Let's just make a 2017 folder. We'll go into 2017. And then we do what it says. Run this command to make a directory called JavaScripting or something else if you like. Yes, well, make the JavaScripting, that's a Linuxy thing, that's great. Change directory JavaScripting, also great. Create a file named introduction.js. So, and then open your file in your favorite editor and add this text. So there's about 3 different ways immediately I can think to do this. One of them is to touch, intro. Now, one of the things to be aware of when you're doing some of these lessons, these workshoppers or modules, like JavaScripting, is that sometimes the way they've been written, because they've been written by a whole bunch of different people, sometimes they're very specific. So when you go to test the code that you've run with their test, we'll go JavaScripting verify name of text file, it will actually want you to have the exact name of that file. So you've got to be very careful about how the level of specificity. So you can touch introduction.js. You could also vi introduction.js, and then edit it that way, or use Nano, or open it in Sublime Text, using your text editor there like that. Or you could echo the console.log, and then what were we being asked to put in there? Create a file, open the file in your favorite editor, and add this text. So if we go hello, and it wants colons, even though I don't use colons in JavaScript, and then we can just redirect our output to introduction.js. So for this one, I'm going to do that because why not? JavaScripting, verify introduction. Now, aha, you did it. Anything between the parentheses of console log are printed to the terminal, etc., etc. So it's actually gone through and it's gone success. But if we just cat introduction.js, you'll see that what we did with that last command was just echoing, like echo, wobble. It just writes out whatever comes after echo to the command line, obviously without the parentheses. And then a standard Unixy thing is you can redirect standard out to somewhere else. And in this case, we're going to redirect it to a file called test, and then if we cat temp test, you'll see that it has wobble in there. So that's one way of doing it. We could have opened it, edited it. I hope none of this is too boring, and it actually gives you something new and useful that you might not have known before. But if you've been using Linux before, you'd know all this stuff, and for that, I apologize. Okay, now we see that we've got completed JavaScripting. So if we were to move on to variables, now one of the things you'll see is that whatever you enter on here, variables, you are then in that puzzle. So when you run JavaScripting verified file, it's that part of the puzzle that it's gonna verify against. So if you wonder why things go wrong, it might be that you've selected a different puzzle and then you start working on another one and it won't solve even though it should, etc. So just make sure you are actually solving the section that you were trying to solve. JavaScripting, exercise 2 of 19. So in this case, we've got a single file called introduction.js. It wanted that to be specifically called that. If we were, for longevity, we could potentially move introduction to 01 introduction.js. And so now we know that it's lesson 1 of, or exercise 1 of 19. A good numbering convention is always a handy thing. So if we read this other one, it says a variable is a name that can reference a specific value. Variables are declared using var followed by the variable's name. I don't want to hear about ES6 at the moment. I'm just going to go with what the puzzles tell us. By example, there's an example, fantastic. It's declared, but it's not defined. Okay, so declaring a variable, not defined. Here's an example of defining a variable. So if you want to, you can actually fire up Node, and then you can go var example. Okay, example. Okay, what was it? Type of? Example. Undefined. It's an undefined type. Cool. So then what would we do? Well, we could go var example equals some string. Again, missing out the colons because the semicolons because they're unnecessary. Then we could go type of example. And it goes, it's a string. Well, that's useful to know. Cool. So we've got that. We've got a variable. We can define it. We can declare it and then define it, or we can declare and define at the same time. So let's create a file named variables.js. Well, this time let's just go, let's go vi variables.js. And in that file, declare a variable named example. Okay, so I'll turn project file hierarchy. Give me 1 second. Let's copy Dream Adventure 2017 dot turn project to here. This is just a Vim thing as a plugin that knows how to read JavaScript within Vim. Forget about it, but just thought I'd mention it. Okay, what are we doing now? So vi variables.js. Okay, now we have an empty text file, and we want to, well, let's put it in a bit more detail now. So we're doing the JavaScripting, and it's 02 of 19, and that's it for now. And then var example equals some string, and then use console.log to print the example variable to the console. So basically we then want to go console.log example. Missing semicolon. Well, this will be interesting. It never used to do that, so I'm going to have to find a turn function. We won't do that just yet, but later on I'm going to find a turn, we'll look at the turn documentation and get rid of the requirement for a semicolon, because that's not going to fly. Alright, so that's done. So if that's done, what we can do is potentially just open up another little terminal over here. I'm in Tmux in case you're wondering where we are. And I have the settings so that it should just show us, yeah, we go. So stream, no, I'm talking about JavaScripting, verify variables. And looks like nice work. Now these end completion panels look a little bit different to how they normally look. And so I think this is one of the older, the JavaScripting is one of the older ones. Normally they have the example solution below them, and it sort of says, did your code look like this? Because one of the things you can actually do in some of the workshop modules is actually cheat and get it to print out the solution if you're absolutely stuck. But like any puzzle, there's not really any point in doing that if you actually want to learn anything and have fun. Okay, so let's say that one's done. So now we can just go back to JavaScripting, and you'll see that variables are shown up as completed. So now we can do strings. Hello, strings. So what are we supposed to do here? JavaScripting. All right. So string is a sequence of characters. A character is, roughly speaking, a written symbol. Examples of characters are letters, numbers, punctuation marks, and spaces. Yes. I think we all know what strings are to a certain degree. String values are surrounded by single or double quotation marks. That is correct. We're only going to use single quotation marks. Fine, I can live with that for now. For this challenge, create a file named strings. Okay, find strings.js. In that file, create a variable named SomeString. So first of all, we're going to JavaScripting. Oh, hello. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.